You don't remember signing up for this life, but somewhere between circle time and standardized tests, you were already being trained for it. It started with the bells, that first grade ding that told you when to move, when to stop, when to eat. You learned early that time wasn't yours, that your worth could be graded, that your voice needed a raised hand for permission. You got gold stars for following directions and side eyes for asking why. Somewhere around middle school, you stopped asking. They told you college was the goal, but they never told you what waited on the other side. Just that success wore a suit and lived in a building with no windows that opened. You believed them. You thought structure was safety, that if you did well, if you kept your head down, there'd be a corner office with your name on the door. But the truth was simpler and way colder. You weren't being raised to dream. You were being trained to clock in. By high school, it was already muscle memory. Wake, performance, obey. They taught you how to write resumes, not how to survive burnout. They drilled you on cover letters, not courage. You sat through lectures on professionalism, but no one taught you boundaries. You learned how to be polite when you were dying inside, how to nod while shrinking. You interned for free because they told you exposure was currency. You took the debt because they said it would pay off. You chased grades like they were lottery tickets, thinking one of them might finally be enough to make your parents exhale. You wore ambition like armor, but it cut you from the inside. And when you finally got the degree, the handshake, the ceremony, there was no exhale. Just another door, another application, another version of, "We'll get back to you." And when the offer finally came, not the one you wanted, but the one you could get, you said yes. Because saying no felt like failure. You signed the contract, picked out your first work outfit, and told yourself this was the beginning of something. You were wrong. It was the start of something ending. The part of you that believed life could feel free, that mornings could be peaceful, that Sundays didn't have to carry dread. You walked into your first day ready to prove yourself, to show them you were worth the salary, even if the salary barely covered rent. You smiled, you shook hands, you memorized names, you sat through meetings where no one said anything real. You learned how to look busy, how to send emails that said nothing but sounded important, how to paste enthusiasm over exhaustion. It was a performance and you nailed it. Because you had to. You didn't even notice when the clock took over, when your calendar filled itself, when let's circle back became the new goodbye, when your lunch breaks got shorter and your nights got quieter. The job didn't just ask for your time, it took your mind. Your weekends started getting invaded by to-dos that couldn't wait. You stopped reading books, stopped reaching out, stopped checking in with yourself. The dreams you once had now felt childish. Who has time to write a novel when there are unread Slack messages and a quarterly review coming? You were always tired but never asleep. Always busy but never moving. Always proving but never enough. And the worst part? You started to believe this was normal. That adulthood was supposed to feel like a slow leak you couldn't find the hole for. They never told you that success might feel like a prison in business casual. That climbing the ladder could mean hanging yourself on the rungs. That the dream they sold was a shift you'd never clock out of. You tell yourself this is just the beginning. That it gets better. That the next job, the next raise, the next role will be the one that finally makes it worth it. But deep down, there's a voice that whispers something colder. This is the life, and you're already in it. The freedom you thought you were working for, you traded it the day you believed showing up on time was more important than showing up for yourself. It creeps up on you, how fast 5 days disappear and how slow 2 can feel. Monday hits like a weight, not a loud crash, just a dull pressure behind the eyes in the pit of your gut, like something unfinished is chasing you again. You wake up already behind. Emails are waiting. Deadlines that weren't yours now are. You shower in silence. You dress without thinking. You scroll your phone while your coffee brews and wonder if this is what adulthood was supposed to feel like. You tell yourself just to make it to Friday. But it's Monday, and Friday might as well be another country. You sit in traffic or on a crowded train next to people who look like you, drained before 9 a.m. No one speaks. Everyone scrolls. You step into your office or log onto Zoom and start the dance. Smile. Greet. Pretend you slept. Pretend the small talk doesn't wear you down. You shuffle through meetings that could have been emails and answer emails that should have never existed. Your brain drifts, but your cursor stays alive. You click, you respond, you stay visible. Because visibility is survival here. It's not about doing good work, it's about being seen doing work. You start measuring worth in notifications. Praise becomes performance. You nod on calls while your soul checks out. And the worst part? No one notices. Because they're checked out too. Lunch breaks aren't breaks. You eat with one hand while replying with the other. You eat fast. You eat numb. Sometimes you don't eat at all. You stare at spreadsheets and dashboards and slide decks until your eyes sting. You reread the same paragraph 5 times because your brain's too fried to process it. You book meetings to talk about other meetings. You get roped into side projects with no upside. Your boss praises your can-do attitude, which is just code for you don't say no. You lose track of time not because you're in flow, but because you're disassociating. It's not burnout. It's a slow unraveling. By Wednesday, you're bargaining with the clock. If you can just make it to 3, you'll take a quick walk. If you can get through this call without snapping, you'll reward yourself with takeout. You start negotiating rest like it's a luxury. Like basic peace is something you have to earn. Your posture folds in on itself. Your eyes dull. You stop checking in with friends. You say, we should catch up, and never do. Even though weekends don't feel like weekends anymore. Saturdays for recovery, Sundays for anxiety. By the time you start to breathe, it's already gone. Back to inbox 0 and calendar invites from people who use circle back like punctuation. You start counting your PTO like rationed oxygen. You dream of quitting at stoplights. You look up remote jobs at 2 a.m., eyes dry, heart heavier than your resume. You tell yourself this is just a phase, that things will settle. But they don't. You fantasize about silence, not the absence of noise, but the absence of pressure. You wish someone would cancel all your plans, all your responsibilities just long enough for your nervous system to remember how to rest. But there's no pause button, just back to back to back. You even start feeling guilty for feeling tired, like exhaustion makes you ungrateful. So you wait for the weekend. You worship the weekend. You post about it. You plan for it. You count the hours like a prisoner scratching tally marks into stone. But weekends go fast. Too fast. And they don't heal. They numb. They're not rest. They're a reset you don't have time to complete. Because before you know it, Sunday night arrives, and with it, that familiar pressure in your chest, and the cycle restarts. You tell yourself this is just life, that everyone does it. But deep down, just because it's common doesn't mean it's okay. And you start to wonder, if you're always living for the weekend, what kind of life is that? You made it. That's what everyone keeps saying. You've got the job, the salary, the benefits. You're not scraping by anymore. You're leading meetings now, not just sitting in them. Your name's on reports. You get CC'd instead of ignored. Promotions came, maybe not fast, but they came. You dress the part now. You speak in bullet points. You've learned to say strategic alignment and bandwidth without flinching. You've got a 401k, a dental plan, a title. But it doesn't feel like success. It feels like camouflage. Because with every step up, the room gets colder. The stakes rise, but the meaning fades. You're paid more, but you pay more too. In hours, in peace, in parts of yourself that don't grow back. The smile you wear in morning stand-ups feels rehearsed. Your wins are quiet, your failures are broadcast. You get called a rock star one day, and not collaborative enough the next, for doing the exact same thing. You start tailoring your tone like it's wardrobe. Too firm, you're difficult. Too soft, you're ineffective. You walk a tightrope with no applause. You become good at shrinking without looking small. And the climb, it never stops. The moment you get comfortable, someone younger shows up with less baggage and more buzzwords. They've got followers. They've got the latest certifications. They've got energy. And you've got Advil in your desk drawer. You start attending conferences you used to dream about and realize half the speakers are winging it. Imposter syndrome never leaves. It just wears nicer clothes. You know how to play the game now. You pad your calendar, you time your email sends, you add thought leadership to your bio and try to sound inspired on LinkedIn, but it all feels like smoke. There are moments, flashes, where you almost feel proud. When you get through a brutal quarter, when your team hits the mark, when someone pulls you aside and says, I don't know how you do it. But you do know. You do it by waking up at 6 even though you didn't sleep, by skipping lunch again, by taking the blame in meetings and none of the credit, by caring more than you're supposed to. And when it's all said and done, you still go home questioning if you did enough. You start confusing productivity with purpose, validation with value, exhaustion with effort. You're successful now, but only because you've learned how to suppress the parts of you that ask for more meaning, more joy, more life. You used to want to be someone. Now you just want to feel something that isn't stress. You catch yourself fantasizing about quitting in the middle of a Tuesday. You Google cabins. You wonder how long your savings would last if you just disappeared. But then you remember the mortgage, the insurance, the kids' tuition, the trap disguised as stability. So you show up again with that same forced smile. You log in, you answer emails. You say, let's touch base like you didn't just touch base 12 times last week. And inside, something quieter than burnout, something closer to grief, takes hold. You tell yourself you're lucky. You remind yourself that people would kill for your job. But deep down, you know, You didn't build a life. You built a performance. And no one claps for the actor who forgets they're on stage. You don't wear a uniform, but you still come home wounded. The bruises don't show up on your skin. They settle deeper. In the heaviness behind your eyes, in the ache between your shoulders, in the way you sigh when no one's around. Your job doesn't draw blood, but it bleeds you all the same. Little cuts over time, tiny compromises, missed meals, skipped workouts. That creeping numbness in your chest you keep calling just stress. You're not in danger, but you're not safe either. You sit for hours without moving, eyes locked to a screen, neck tilted just enough to ruin your posture and your sleep. You laugh when people say, "At least you're not digging ditches?" Because somehow this hurts worse. A pain without glory, exhaustion without proof. You used to be sharp. Now you forget words mid-sentence. You reread the same email 3 times before hitting send. Your attention span's fried and your memory's foggy. You know what burnout feels like, not in theory, in muscle. You clench your jaw in meetings. You grind your teeth at night. Your smartwatch buzzes to tell you to breathe, and you ignore it. You keep pushing because that's what good workers do. You tell yourself it's just a season, just a tough quarter, just until the next raise. But the seasons blur and the quarters pile up and the raise never feels like a rescue. It feels like hush money, something they toss your way to keep you from screaming. You look around and realize everyone else is injured too, but no one's talking about it. The woman in HR cries in her car on lunch breaks. The guy in sales jokes about drinking himself to sleep, but he's not joking. Your manager twitches when their phone buzzes. Everyone's got a limp, but the culture says smile, grind, hustle, be grateful, so you stay quiet. You go to work sick because calling out is a sin. You reply to emails at midnight to show commitment. You say, "I'm fine," with the same muscle memory you used to type your password. You learn to live with pain like it's rent. And the irony? The more you suffer silently, the more they praise you. Team player. Resilient. Low maintenance. You've become reliable by becoming invisible. You cover for others. You pick up slack. You become the human buffer that keeps the system smooth while it erodes you. And when the new hire, younger, louder, shinier, gets fast-tracked past you, you swallow it. You pretend it doesn't sting, but it does. Because you remember when you were the new one. And now, you're the one being phased out slowly, politely, like a feature no one uses anymore. You're not fired. You're forgotten. You used to believe your effort mattered. That loyalty meant something. But now you see the truth. You're not a person here. You're a seat, a cog, a row in a spreadsheet. The moment you break, really break, they'll replace you without blinking. And all that sacrifice, all those nights you worked through dinner, those weekends you gave up, those birthdays you missed, they'll be memories only you carry. Your badge will deactivate and your name will vanish from Slack and the world will keep spinning like you were never there. But here's the part that really cuts. Even knowing all that, you still log in tomorrow. You keep saying you're almost there. 5 more years. 3 if you play your cards right. Just gotta hang on. Stack that 401k, pay off the house, maybe move somewhere quiet, somewhere warm. You tell yourself that freedom is coming, that all of this, the late nights, the deadlines, the years you can't get back, is buying you something. But deep down, a voice keeps asking, at what cost? Because the version of you that started this journey, they're not the one crossing the finish line. That version had fire. That version had options. You, now, you're tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You're free on paper, but not in your bones. Retirement's supposed to be the reward, the light at the end of the fluorescent tunnel. But by the time you get there, your body's different. Your habits are baked in. You don't know how to relax without guilt. You sit still and feel panic. You open your laptop out of muscle memory. You keep checking your phone because you don't know what to do without a calendar full of tasks. You spent so long chasing productivity, you forgot how to just exist. And the wild part? No one told you how empty freedom would feel when you spent decades trading your identity for a paycheck. The people who told you to grind it out, they're gone. Retired early or moved on or burned out before you did. You sacrificed for the company, but the company was never yours. You trained your replacement. You documented everything. You handed off your work like a legacy. But when your last day came, there was no parade, no closure. Just a goodbye card signed in blue ink and a cake that melted under the break room lights. You walked out with a box in your hands and years missing from your life. Not just hours, years. The time you didn't get to spend with your kids. The vacations you skipped, the hobbies you let rot. And now the question echoes louder than ever. Was it worth it? You try to build a new routine. You try reading more, walking more, sleeping in. But something in you itches, like you're not doing enough. Like you're wasting time even when there's nothing left to earn. You were wired to chase, to prove, to perform. And now that the chasing's done, You don't know who you are. You were the reliable one. The early riser, the spreadsheet killer, the office glue, the yes person. And now you're just a person with a lot of quiet and a lifetime of noise in your head. You start reflecting, and it hurts. Not in one big wave, but in tiny realizations. Like how you stopped writing, how you stopped calling your mom as much, how you used to dance in the kitchen before work, and then one day, you just didn't. You mourned pieces of yourself you didn't even notice were dying. You were so busy surviving the job that you never got around to living the life. You paid your bills, you met expectations, you did the responsible thing, but the responsible thing cost you things that responsibility doesn't refund. And now the office is behind you, but it still echoes in your chest, in your routines, in your regrets. Because you didn't just work the job worked you. It shaped you, chiseled away at you, until what was left was profitable, predictable, and quietly broken. That's why it sucks to be a 9-to-5 worker.